Hello, everybody. Micah here with Fluency Corp. And today we are with Christina. Christina, can you tell me your last name?
I can't pronounce it because I'm not fluent in my host language, but I say it Urrutia. My husband would argue with you that it's Urrutia.
Okay.
Someday
if we're
I'll
doing
get
Spanish,
it right.
then I can do that. Urrutia.
Oh, yes.
There we go.
Please. I need to hire you just to do my last name for me because I butcher it every time.
I'll follow you around and you'll be like, "Hi, I'm Christina," and I'll be like, Urrutia.
That would be fantastic.
I'll just have a little. I was buying a baby carrier because we're gonna be like hiking through Portugal soon and stuff. And like my daughter's like 1.5, and we were so maybe I can put me in a little carrier and I'll just Urrutia.
Yeah, I'm all for that. I'll carry you around. You can be on my backpack. I don't know if I could carry you. Like front carry might be a little weird, but backpack, I'm for it. Let's try it.
I want someone to do a cartoon of like my 5'8" person on the front of you.
That would be really cool.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'5". So
it would be ridiculous. Yeah,
it could be pretty ridiculous, but it would be effective, and we would get a lot of attention.
So much. That's so true. Okay. So we just talked about this, but tell us where you are now currently and where you're from, and then just kind of like the path from where you started to where you are now.
Oh my gosh. Well, it has been an incredible, crazy journey on how I ended up in Mexico. So,
so Mexico.
Yes, I'm in Mexico. I've been here now for 6 years. The current state is Puebla, which is about 2 hours south of Mexico City. And I love it here. We've lived in Mexico now for almost 6 years. It'll be 6 years on July 5th.
Wow.
So it's been quite the journey.
It's a long time.
Originally, it's a very long time. So, I started out I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in the United States.
Okay.
I lived there until my late 20s. I got bit by the I don't want to live in a small town kind of bug like everyone else. The story's similar, right? Your first travel experience from a small town. Moved to where else? Los Angeles.
Nice.
I lived in Pasadena for a little bit. Bounced around California, and that's where I met my husband. Whenever I met my husband, he's a Mexican national, and we immediately hit it off. But you would think like language barrier, right? But he spoke fluent English, so for me it was so convenient, right? I was like, oh, of course. He's gorgeous. He is a sensitive person. He's great. We work together. I was like, this is fantastic, right? Everything perfect. So, we were together for about 2 years when we made the decision to come to Mexico. And I like to say that we made the decision, but it was a very poorly informed decision on how we got here.
Tell us about that. I think that's important. Yeah, because I also had zero information when I moved. So tell me your story.
I had information. I had planned this sort of. We knew that we were going to get married. We knew that we had to do some immigration work for my husband, obviously. We knew there were a lot of challenges and obstacles we were going to go through. So we hired the cheapest immigration attorney you could possibly find. And we said, hey, we need some immigration advice. And they're like, you have to go to Mexico. There's no other way. People, if you are thinking about this, there is a better way. Make sure you double check because this is what happened.
Okay, everybody. Immigration advice. Pay attention.
Immigration. I am not an immigration attorney, but from personal experience. So we took the first advice that we got. It was poor advice. And I was at a pivotal point in my career that made me make this decision, though. I was working for a company. I didn't feel supported. I was in a sales position. I was burned out. I was just tired of the grind. And that on top of this like magic pill, hey, all you have to do is go to Mexico for 2 years and you'll be able to come back, no problem. So I said 2 years on a sabbatical, and that's how I played it, right? In my head, it was a sabbatical. It was temporary. We were coming back. It was only 2 years. I thought we could start a family. We could explore Mexico, right?
It's a good time to start a family. Yeah, you have 2 years.
Yeah. So we'll just do some stuff. My husband will get to see his family. So that's what we thought we were doing. So that was the extent. We moved to my husband's hometown when we crossed into Mexico, and he lived in Tehuacan. So Tehuacan is, the best way to explain it would be like a very small town where you could walk the distance in 15 minutes any direction, and you're still in the town. There's no English speaking.
Pittsburgh or the suburbs.
No, it's definitely much smaller. So even smaller than hometown, right? And no Spanish. Mother-in-law, like navigating the new marriage, new mother-in-law family trying to talk to me and feed me, which was great. The food is amazing here. So all of that in the first couple of days, I was devastated. I knew right away that I had made a terrible mistake.
Oh, wow.
So that whole first year, right, I was trying to figure out, what do I do? How do I navigate this, right? There's so much that you're not prepared to navigate. And I struggled. I was like physically ill. I was like distressed mentally.
Yep.
But what was I going to do, right? But I was living on this dream. It's only 2 years. It's only 2 years.
Yeah.
So suffer through, right? Don't get comfortable. Just suffer through the 2 years.
Yeah.
So now it's been 6 years.
Yeah.
We're still in the process. We're nowhere close to the physical finish line. We're told maybe another year and a half. Maybe.
Wow.
But if not, but the funny thing is about like around the time that COVID started, we had our son in 2019. He's going to be 4 this year. So that's crazy to me. He's going to be 4. And now we're actually happy here. You know, we just moved into a house. We're thriving. My son's doing great. My husband's kind of coming around to the idea of staying here. And like, there's so many pros for our family living here in Mexico that like now we kind of don't want to go back. So we're going to have that same conversation in about a year and a half. What do we do when that paperwork comes in and we get the little green slip? Woohoo! Like, what do we do next, right?
Huge.
So it's crazy.
Well, I have some specific questions on how you went from misery to I love it here. Yeah. Well, misery of the beginning. So if anyone has questions about Christina's process, please do put them in the chat and we will get to them. Maybe about the immigration process or about her first year or about culture in Mexico or the change. So I'm going to keep asking her some questions that I have here as well. So I would love to learn first about what is some of your favorite things now about Mexico. And then we'll go to what do you think made the change? Or we can do it in the opposite because maybe some of the favorite things made the change.
No, I can tell you that some of the favorite things never changed. The things that I loved from whenever I first got here are still the same things that I love today. Those were the things that helped me to power through, but I wouldn't say that they made the change. There was a very specific point where it made the change, and I'm excited to share that with some other people. If you're struggling, if you're an expat, I have like a very pivotal point that might make a difference. So for me, Mexico it's such a unique place. You know, it was my first time ever being outside of the country. So I can't compare this to France or anywhere else. I've only ever lived here in Mexico. So for me, the reason I love Mexico is first and foremost the food. Second would be the people, and those can kind of interchange depending on if I'm hungry or not, right? So if I'm hungry, then food comes first. Tacos on every street corner absolutely makes a difference. Churros come right to your door. There's a bell for everything. You've lived in Mexico, right? So, or you've been here, so you know, like the sounds of Mexico.
Yeah.
I hated them at one point, but now I love that. I love hearing the bell and knowing that's churros, right? I know my Taco Bell. I need my Taco Bell. And I'm not talking like Taco Bell in the U.S. I'm talking like the actual sound.
The guy with the tacos in his little cart, riding his bicycle down the street.
Yeah, and the little bicycle with the kettle in front for the esquites, like those are the things that make me love Mexico. Of course, it's the food, right? And when I come back to the US to visit, it's so funny because I'm so miserable. Like people are like, "Let's go eat. Oh, let's go to this cool Mexican restaurant." And I'm like, "Okay." And I order a plate of food. I get chilaquiles or whatever, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, these are good. It's all right. It's not Mexican, but close enough.
Yeah.
Taco Bell, yay, whatever." So it's like it's those things that have changed me as a person that I love the most about Mexico. The other thing I love about Mexico is that there's no there's less consumerism, right? You use things until they're thoroughly used, and even secondhand is still good enough for most people. People will not like turn up their nose at buying clothes secondhand or those kind of things. So that's one of the things I love the most. Bridget.
I know. I had to go, Bridget. Yeah.
Oh, Bridget, hi. Bridget knows my story very well too.
Oh, she's the best.
So then you said you wanted to talk about what made the change.
I think this is key. I think this is huge for people moving and for people who work in the relocation industry to understand some of the, oh, what do we say? Just the waves or the cycles of the feelings about the move.
No joke.
And how long it takes, and how, like, if you haven't done it, there's like no way to explain it.
And every person does it differently, right? Like
Absolutely.
some people
Totally.
might jump in and be just fine. I don't know. I didn't experience this until I was already in my 30s, right? So
Yeah.
if I would
Yeah.
have done this in my 20s, maybe it would have been different. I don't know.
Nope. I did it at 25.
Okay, so then it wouldn't have made a difference, right? So
It depends on the person for sure. And it depends on what you're
so
doing. Like,
wrong.
are you just jumping into an expat community? Are you married and having to talk with your husband's family? It depends on the situation, right?
Yep. And that was the key thing. The more isolated I felt because we were in a city where I couldn't communicate. I couldn't even go to the grocery store, right? And I still have problems. It's 6 years later. I still freak out if I'm in a bad headspace. I cannot go to the grocery store and make a purchase by myself. And my husband doesn't get it because
Yeah.
for him, he was just like he was in love with our language. He wanted to learn English. He experienced it, right? He experienced it very differently than me. I moved here with this idea that it was going to be okay. I thought Mexico was Cancun. I was expecting to come on an all-inclusive vacation to Cancun in a resort, white sand, blue water, and I was going to chill for 2 years and have a great experience.
Oh,
This is not what Tivicon was. And like, so the thing that changed though, the moment it changed was actually about a year ago, a little over a year ago, year and a half. I sat there and I realized that I had been playing the victim. And at the time, it was 4.5 years. 4.5 years I played the victim. Like, this happened to me instead of me having this great experience. And my friends, they were like, "Hey, Chris, like, you're in Mexico. That's so cool. Look what you've done. You've moved to Mexico. You have a job. You're doing all these great things. You're really becoming a human outside of where you started from." And I couldn't see it. All I saw was how bad Mexico was, how horrible it was treating me when I had to take a shower that I had to heat up, right? Like a bucket shower, right? So my first bucket shower, I was like, nope. I'm from Pennsylvania. We have hot running water. I don't take a bucket shower. And to do it, like I was like, okay, my hair is greasy. It's time. I have to take a shower. Got to do it. And those are the kind of things that I was just feeling a victim to. And one day I woke up
pushing against the change.
Yeah. And then I was like, I don't want to learn Spanish. I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to cry. And the day that I changed that, whenever I finally started working with some professionals, I started having more conversations about this. And when I started my Women of Global Mobility group, I was asking other women about all of these different like nuances. And that's where it started. I was like,
wow,
maybe I don't need to be a victim. I'm unsupported because I'm living too narrow, right? Like I need to get out and start meeting other expats. At found expat groups on Facebook. I started going to expat meetups and actually meeting people, and I made some friends.
And so key.
And guess what? Every single one of them had started to learn Spanish and were comfortable speaking Spanish. And I said, oh, they were comfortable with their way of life. They were appreciating their way of life. They were happy. And I said, wait, why am I blaming immigration for me being unhappy? I can be happy too, right? I deserve to be happy. I can be happy. And we decided that this is the season. Right now, we are in the season. We bought a Christmas tree. Sounds silly. Might sound completely crazy, but buying the Christmas tree and Christmas decorations this past Christmas, world of difference. Because we had agreed that we're staying now. It's not temporary, right? Even if it is temporary, at least we have the basic comforts that we want. And we're being purposeful about our stay here now. So that's what changed. I stopped being a victim.
I completely understand with that. And it's almost like instead of sitting on the edge of your chair, like waiting for this to be over, like you kind of sat back and like, okay, like, let me get a little comfortable, because it's so hard living on the edge of the chair, waiting to
jump in, right? And like, if you know anything about Maslow's hierarchy, that's exactly what it is, right? It's not feeling, your self-esteem is really low when you can't communicate, right?
So low.
You might not know this, but I love to talk. And not being able to communicate for 3 years before I started to really get enough Spanish that I could have small, basic conversations, it made such a horrible impact on my health from feeling isolated. And even like with my husband, like we can speak English to each other. My husband knows English, right? So, but I felt like an outsider. Even inside the house, I felt like an outsider because everything I needed, I had to ask my husband for. And I still do, because I rely too much on him. Again, how do you learn a language? You throw yourself in, you immerse yourself in it, and you don't let somebody else translate for you, because as soon as you give them the power to translate for you, you'll sit back, it's easy, right? Like I can sit here and be like, okay, you translate, I'm good. It's not good. It's not good for practicing. I need to practice more. I have great receptive language. I can hear, I can listen very well. It's the speaking that's always been my problem.
And Christina, just, I hope this will make you feel better, but it's everybody's problem.
It is.
Everybody's. Literally, every single person we start with says the exact same thing when we have our first meeting. Like, that is the path of language acquisition. If you think about kids, how long they listen before they produce. And then what do they produce? Water, mom, dad, the things that keep them alive.
Yes, exactly. So that was how I learned language too. Like, the way that I learned Spanish was so unique, and it was actually really fun. So after I was in Mexico for 2 months, I walked around some of the local schools, right? And I just wanted to find somewhere where I could teach English. I was like, maybe I'll try teaching English for a couple of years and see what happens, right? I didn't think about the impact that it would have on me. I was thinking, I have a service. People here could benefit from learning from a native, right? So I applied to some universities. I started teaching, and it was amazing, because teaching English, I actually learned more Spanish, because the kids would come to me and say, teacher, ¿cómo se dice? And they would say whatever it was in Spanish, and I was like, I don't know. Let me look it up, right? And I had to look it up. But that vocabulary started compounding. And then I started getting comfortable, right? Talking with a kid, there's no pressure. Kids don't care. They're excited. These kids were so excited to learn English with me. And I was so excited to be with them, because I was learning little bits of Spanish, right? It was like a give and take. And I told them that first day, I was like, look, I don't speak Spanish. I have very basic knowledge. You're going to help me speak Spanish. I'm going to help you speak English. And at the end of the semester, we'll all be moving on this journey together. And they loved that. And I taught English for a good 2.5, 3 years and loved it. And it's something that I wish in fact, I'm going to make a plan to do more of that now because I miss it so much now that I'm back into relo. Like, I love relo, I love well-being, I love all of these things, but I really do miss that piece of giving back, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about being able to work once you go to another country. Was it easy for you? How did that go the first time finding a job? As an English
Uh,
speaker, we're very lucky that we
so
can find jobs like that.
so here's kind of the tip on that though, because in Mexico, you know, we talk a lot about white privilege in the US, right? And I don't want to get this into like a racial debate or anything, but in Mexico, my white privilege was clear because I spoke the language. And that had nothing to do with me being a different color, really.
Yeah,
But
just the native
here,
language.
right, it's like as soon as they saw me, they're like, she must speak a different language than us. They knew, right? I clearly stuck out like a sore thumb. But they had no questions at all about hiring me. They didn't make me do any crazy application process. I didn't have to show my degrees. Like, it was literally, I walked in, I said, hey, I speak English. You need an English teacher. Let's work.
I
No
know.
questions
I felt
asked. It
like
was
that too.
easy. But then, was I doing a disservice? I didn't know how to teach English. I knew how to speak English, but I was not qualified to teach English, not in any sense of the word. I did not actually get certified as a language teacher until I came back to the US and realized how much of an impact I had had on those students.
Yeah.
And I decided that I couldn't call myself a teacher for 3 years without getting certified. So I went through the whole TSOL
Nice.
process.
Yeah,
I'm
Tesla.
certified
Tesla.
everywhere except the US. So I can teach English anywhere now.
So David had a question about how to get connected to people in your community. As a language teacher, I'm just going to very quickly give my 2 cents. And the very first expat chat that we did, I will tell you, Michelle from Copenhagen Relocations, she first moved to France when she was in her 20s. And she had someone that she was with at the time, and they could introduce her in, and she became fluent in French. When she did it again in her 30s, moving to Denmark, moving to Copenhagen, she was exhausted, right, to do it again and to learn the language again. And she does speak, but she felt the need to find English speakers at that time, she said. And so
it's so important.
Yeah, it is definitely important. As the language teacher, I will say, try to push yourself for that immersion as well, right? Find the balance so that you are not in the English bubble. And again, not everybody has to learn the language of where they live. It is not always necessary, and it doesn't matter what level you need to get to. We just want you to be happy. And so
Exactly.
if you find that expat community, sometimes it can take you longer. And so think about how to find a little of both. So tell us how you found your people that made you feel more at home, because that is the most critical, is your sanity over learning a language. Yeah.
It really is like, so I think you're definitely on to that, right? Obviously, communicating in the native or in your native tongue whenever you want to express disapproval with something, right? Someone who can get you when you're having one of those days. And there are tons of those days, right? Like, I have tons of days where I'm just like, I'm tired. I don't want to translate everything in my head. Or if I'm having problems with my family members here in Mexico, right? Like, the only people that understand that from the same perspective as me are going to people who had that same journey, right? So expat groups are definitely, they have a very important place to make you feel secure. But if your goal is to have immersion and to really feel comfortable with the culture, with the language, you can't spend all of your time in those NetPack groups, like, right? You have to get out of the expat groups. And there's tons of places in Mexico that are expat heavy, right? So I was very fortunate last year when we moved to Veracruz. We had a very, very big expat group, right? They had a Facebook group. It's led by an amazing woman. Her name is Sarah Tyler. She orchestrated everything, and she's from a small town in Philadelphia, and she moved to Mexico. She traveled all over the place in Latin America. She's learned the language. She's created her own business. I mean, she's the ideal person to lead this kind of group, right? And because of that group, I was able to find a couple of my really close friends now, which is amazing to have those people who are on the same journey, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I found it. It was a Facebook group, but I've seen them on Reddit. I've seen them on Facebook. There's some apps that you can use that have meetups for expats. There's always some place that you can look.
That's so important. And I'm blanking on this place for expats that I have joined up with their meetups. I can't believe I'm blanking right now. I'll think of it later. But yeah, Facebook groups, man, they're good for everything, honestly.
They really are.
Like,
you have to be careful, right? Like, as with everything else, you know, be careful of who you interact with. Don't give your credit card information. Don't take jobs.
No. Yeah.
All of those things. But like, there is a very valuable place for them in your life whenever you need to find somebody. The other place that I found a lot of friends was at the language school, because I was teaching English and I was working at a school where there were other teachers. You know, I connected with those other teachers. I have a great friend. Her name's Wendy, and she's Canada. But we had very similar life stories. So like, her and I shared a lot of stories, and we became really good friends. So just putting yourself out there, right, to make those friends. Get out, leave your house.
And I will say, I don't know about you, but I learned so much because the teachers that I worked with in Mexico, they would start inviting me to things, right? And then I'd be in a Spanish only speaking environment. Even though my friend at the school spoke English, I would be invited.
Yes.
And the teacher that was my friend also spoke Spanish. And so that's where I really got thrown in more.
I'd be interested. What was your experience when that happened? Were you anxious about going into that?
Horrified. Yeah.
Isn't it terrible? Like,
no, I would say for the first 3 months, I would spend every evening and weekend after I did my private classes teaching English, also with little kids. I learned Spanish from little children as well. I would go and sit at a cafe and study. And this other American teacher who was already fluent in Spanish because she had dated someone who did not speak English in the US. So she had fallen in love with someone who didn't speak English in the US. And that's how she got to where she was with Spanish. And it was also her major. I mean, so it was a combo, but we know that schooling alone does not make you fluent. So,
4 years of Spanish. Never learned a thing.
8 and couldn't speak it. So I remember one day she came up to me and she goes, to your point just now, if you keep studying Spanish in that coffee shop, you'll never be fluent.
Exactly.
Goes, you're in Mexico and you're sitting alone in a freaking coffee shop.
Yes.
She's like, what are you doing? And I was like, because I was an English lit major. Writing and communicating is my art.
Me too.
I can't do it badly. And I think these people are held back the most. She goes, if you ever think you'll speak Spanish like you speak English, just stop now and go home.
That is exactly the same thing. So this is kind of interesting because we were talking before the show too, that like I have hit a plateau where I can't break past it because in my head, I have to be perfect at how I'm speaking.
It's totally mental. The people that don't give a flying are the ones who get fluent.
That's my husband. He picked it
up. That's why
so
kids
easily.
do.
He didn't
care. Not that they're better. They don't care.
Yeah.
It's not that they're better. They've done scientific studies. Adults can learn faster than kids. It's actually a myth. Adults can learn faster than kids because they're adults. They know what they're doing.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah. It's the fact that we're adults and we've learned to be afraid is actually why we don't get there.
Oh, I'm afraid of a lot of things right now. So,
and I told you, it is my mission to get you from whatever level you're at to the next level by the end of 2023. If you do exactly as I say, it's my goal.
That's my goal too, because I can't let my son speak Spanish before me. Like, I gotta
Well,
keep
he
up.
will. I want you to accept it. He will.
He is.
He's
He's
at
already
school,
halfway
right?
there. He's not in school yet. He's
But
not.
when is he going to be at school?
He's going to be in school this year because he finally hit the plateau where he can communicate basic needs in Spanish,
Yeah.
which was what was holding me from letting him go to school, right? I wanted him to be able to communicate in Spanish.
But Christina, he's going to be fluent in 3 months.
Probably.
But you would also if you were 8 hours a day in only Spanish.
Yeah, that's a good point too. But my whole day is consumed by English.
That's what I'm saying. So you have to let go of how you think it's going to go. That's the tricky thing. He's going to be a native speaker. Just like every kid who grows up in the US is a native speaker.
It's amazing to me that he will natively just be a combination of both, right? Like he's not only a dual citizen, he's a dual language person. He'll just automatically have it.
Kids can native do 3, by the way. Studies show that kids can native do 3, and then past that, they'll be okay. So like they can do 4 and 5, okay. But they can be native in 3.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, so he'll be golden. He'll be golden. Think of all of the kids growing up with their parents that don't speak English in the US. Like, it's nothing.
Yeah, we have family in the US that's exactly the same thing, right? Like Mexican
whether it's
family,
China,
they
whether
speak
it's Japan,
Spanish
whether
all
it's
the time.
India. Yeah.
And English all day in school, right? So they're so used to just swapping back and forth between the languages. And it's so cool to listen when people just like swap back and forth. Like it's nothing. They don't see 2 languages. They see that's their vocabulary, right? Yeah. And they can pick and choose. And my son does it too already. He's 3 and he picks and chooses what words. He won't say yellow because it's too much work. He says amarillo. Or he'll pick rojo over red.
They will always choose the faster one, just like in English. We don't say, "What are you doing today?" What are you doing today?
Yep.
It's the exact same. My daughter is
exactly what he wants.
Yep.
So
my daughter's the same. She goes, "Hi." What's easier than hi? Hi. Bye. Everything else is in Spanish and French.
It's so funny.
Hi and bye, because the whole world is saying hi and bye to her all over the country.
Yep.
But everything else,
cool.
And she doesn't even say amarillo. She just says ame. She's like, it's enough.
Yeah, halfway there. My son does the exact same thing. And it's funny, he's starting to play with language now too, which is so fun, right? To watch them discover, because he's trying to combine some things like some English, like the grammar structure of English, and playing with it with Spanish. And this is why he's going to get it before me, because he's not afraid of it, right? He's like this, and then he makes up his own little language that he incorporates into it. And now I'm trying to decipher 3 different languages. I was like, did he just talk to me in Spanish? Did he say something in his language that he's making up? Like, what language are we speaking? So I always ask him, like, can you tell me what language are we speaking so mom can keep up with you? And he's like, oh, I'm going to speak Spanish. And I was like, okay, we're in Spanish for 2 words, and then we're going to switch to English. It's amazing.
Okay, I have some questions here.
I love Richard's questions.
Oh,
can you sabotage his education? I might be sabotaging him right now. I feel like I've added so much to this poor little brain. He might, God, my poor son's going to be bilingual.
It's not true. Yeah, it's not true. It's not true.
No.
And there's a lot of misconceptions about bilingual, and they think that they speak later and that they are delayed. No. They're not.
No. My son was not delayed in speaking. He was like starting to speak around right at 1 year. You know, he started walking early. He started walking at 9 or 10 months, which is the first thing, right? As soon as your child stops with learning how to walk, whichever they do first, either walk or talk, that's when the language explosion happens. It has nothing to do with what language they speak, how many languages they speak. He started with Spanish words almost at that age anyway. Like he was speaking 1 English word, 1 Spanish word, whatever was convenient for him. And he chose, because I only speak English with him, and I spend the majority of my time with him. He's always with me. He had an English-speaking nanny, and he still learned Spanish because it was everywhere around him. He had no choice. He wanted it. It was there. He watched one episode of Dora the Explorer, and that was it. He was speaking Spanish. So I had nothing to do with his Spanish learning at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What? So I want to get into these other ones. Let's see what Richard said real quick. What you describe is probably the development of languages, I guess. I don't remember what part we were talking about, but yes. It's the development of language with adults. I know people are shocked by this. It's the same as children.
We all learn language the same.
I mean, we all learn. Like, did anyone in the world not learn the language of their parents unless there is literally a language speaking problem with the child? Like, is there one person that was like, I just spoke to him in English his whole life and he just never got it? Like,
no, exactly, no. Right?
No, and it's the same thing. Like I said to you, if you were dropped 8 hours a day with all of those kids, like your child is going to be, you would be done in 3 months too. Yeah.
It actually is true. My highest learning level was when I was teaching, when the students were at basic level. Whenever I moved into, like, they wanted me to teach conversation classes to more senior levels or preparing for English, like the TOEFL exam, everyone spoke English, and I didn't get the same value that I was getting. And that's what made teaching English not fun anymore, because I wasn't getting anything other than, like, whenever you get those aha moments as a teacher, that's the best thing. Whenever you see a student go, I get it, and you're like, yes, you got it, and you celebrate, right? Like a small win with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I want to make sure that we have time for this. You are the founder of Women of Global Mobility. I first heard about this, I think it was at Vegas, right? With ERC. Like, I heard about it before, and then I was super, super pissed that I didn't know that you guys did all of these really cool things on the days before the event. So mad. I was like, oh my God, I could have been here 2 days earlier. So this next time, Boston, tell me when to arrive, please. Tell me when to arrive.
I will tell you. Yeah. I have big plans.
So we can plan now. Yeah.
I have big plans. I have big plans for us. So I don't know what company I'll be with. I'm coming as Women of Global Mobility, though. So for Boston this year, I'm super excited. You know, I love coming to the Northeast, so it'll give me some time to visit with my family. I have some family over in Boston right now, so I'll get to see my dad. He's going to come up from Pennsylvania, and
you have someone in Boston too?
I do. I have a cousin who's over in Boston, so I'm excited.
I lived there for 10 years, so I'm super excited to go back.
I love Boston. It's one of my favorite places in the Northeast. I have some bad memories from years past in Boston, but that was my own fault. That was
I won't go there. Me too.
A little bit too many drinks, and I think it was at an ERC.
God, yes.
Yeah, I learned my lesson. I'm a little bit too old for that now. So.
Okay, we'll tell those stories in the first few days of Boston. So first off, tell me what Women of Global Mobility is. What is your mission? And then let's talk about how people can get involved as well.
Sure. So Women of Global Mobility started about 1.5 years ago. It started out of an idea that I was bouncing between countries. My mom had recently been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. I had this expat thing where I was living in Mexico but needed to be home in the U.S. to spend time with her to figure out what this new diagnosis was for her. How was our family going to navigate? So I was really just looking for, I hate to say it, but I was interviewing women to be my chief cheer officer, because, you know, pancreatic cancer is one of the most deadly cancers that you can get. Obviously cancer, there's no cure, but pancreatic cancer is very aggressive and it moves fast. So when we got the news that my mom had pancreatic cancer, I needed a chief cheer officer, right? And I wanted to make sure that I had the right social network and support to navigate those times, right? I'm a mom. I was going to be taking my son back to the U.S. without his father. Like, we were going to live separately for a couple of months. Who knew how long, right?
Wow.
And he was only last year, so he was 2 going on 3, right? And navigating all those decisions and trying to figure out where do I fit in my new career. I had just accepted a job a couple months prior with Price Point. So I was going through all of these different things where I didn't know how to navigate, and I needed a friend. So I met Kelly Guerin, and we started talking. And then that led to me talking to Peggy Smith, and she had done a couple episodes on Love and Reload about her story, right? And I didn't want to call it her story. And she's like, here, we'll give you the reins, reach out to the people who have joined this, and if you can do something with it, great. Me and Kelly got together and we just started building this network. We were just having conversations with other women. Like, do you feel like this? And then it grew and it took off so fast that we actually had no plan and we didn't have a mission, right? We just had it was a complaining party. We were getting together to complain and to support each other.
What were you complaining about?
It's okay, right? Like life, being a mom,
life. Okay.
Like, right? Being a mom, being a wife, having the mental load, having to navigate a career, negotiating salaries in a world where we're automatically paid 70 cents to the dollar of men, right? How do you navigate all of that and be 100% at all of them?
Oh God, yeah.
The shocking answer is that you don't.
No,
there
you
is
don't.
no way.
Yeah.
You
pick and choose all the time. Yeah,
exactly. So Women of Global Mobility is just that. It's a group of women who are in global mobility, surprise, and we support each other with a bunch of different ways. This year we have a lot of new things coming up that we're going to be doing. We're going to be calling them tracks. We're going to be focusing on women's well-being within the workplace. We're going to be talking about language, upskilling, how to navigate career changes. For me, I was in sales and now I'm pivoting into more of a marketing and consulting thing. I don't want to do full-time sales when I have this passion for marketing. And now with everything changing with AI, you have to have both, right? You have to be able to talk in both languages, sales and marketing. So how do women make that career pivot? So Women of Global Mobility is a support group for women to come and hang out. We have a Slack channel where we do book clubs. We have conversations. It's really great. And then, of course, like you mentioned, we do in-person meetups. This year, we're planning to expand that into Europe. So we're going to have some small networking groups for the Europe associations. Whenever you have Europe, we'll be at the front or back end of those conferences.
Are you going to be doing Dublin?
We're not. I am not. We do have someone, I believe, who's going to Europe. I would love for them to take charge and do something for us out there, but nothing is planned as of right now.
Do you want
that could
me
change.
to help?
That would be fantastic. Are you going?
Yes, I'm going. I stay
going?
for a month every year.
Oh my gosh, I would love. I tried to get myself a ticket.
I go every year, Christina. So if you want me to be like the U.S. representative helping the Europe person, that would be great. And then you the years you can go,
I would love
switch up.
Next year. Dublin is on my travel list. I had a ticket to go to another conference and I was super excited to go.
Yes, so, Bridget, let's get something together. I knew Bridget would be there. Bridget, even if it's Bridget, when do you get in? I'm gonna organize this live.
Yes, please.
I get in on Saturday because I like to sleep and I bring my daughter. And so we chill and we get okay until Monday with the time zone thing.
Yep. You have to, right? You need to get that be fresh. I like to do that for all conferences, to be honest. I hate flying in the day of a conference.
Hate it.
Because I want to just relax.
Bridget's there the Tuesday before. Bridget, let me know if you want to do anything with women on Sunday or Monday. Let me know. I don't have anything Sunday or Monday afternoon. I'm booked starting Monday night, and then you know how the conference is.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I need to book a ticket. Now I'm almost ready
Christina, it's incredible. Have you ever been?
No.
Okay, let's bring your kid. We'll get an apartment. We'll get a nanny. The whole thing. I bring a nanny, Christina.
Do you? Okay, yes. Wait. Okay, so this is life-changing. We need to talk offline.
I got a 2-bedroom apartment for the nanny, the baby, and yes.
Okay, we're talking about this. This might be a real thing.
this is a real thing. Like other people with little babies, like honestly, like last year I did it with my one of my employees, and we went back and forth to the conference watching my 9-month-old.
That is amazing.
Yes, we just like all bonded together and was like, how do we make this conference work? Well, one of us has to watch the baby.
Yep, exactly. Or get a nanny.
Or get a nanny. It's just for a week. It's not that big of a deal. Like flying someone over, it was $700. That's just not that big of a deal. Like,
you're so
yeah.
smart.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
my
but
goodness. We should have had
this
this.
because I couldn't leave her because then we have to go to France for 3 weeks. So I have to bring her to the conference. So
Yep. Makes
okay.
sense.
Well, Bridget, we'll figure it out. Even if it's just like seeing who else wants to meet up. So I'm available Sunday, Monday. I know it's so hard. It's crazy, crazy busy. Okay, so I want to get to really quickly. We just have a little bit of time left because usually I'll end about 10 minutes before the top of the hour. What do you think we can expect, or what did you guys do in Vegas for ERC? And then what would you like to do to get people pumped about Boston in October?
End of October. So yeah, well, in Vegas, we really weren't planned enough on what we were clearly going to do. We had a couple of like impromptu meetups that we kind of organized. Kelly and I both had something that we did. We had a really good time at Area 51 or Area 15. Sorry, I will change it.
No, I saw the stuff about it and I was like, oh, I missed it all. So what would be the best time to come in? Tell us what day to come in, like Sunday?
I usually go the day before. So whatever the conference is, like for me, obviously I have to come in on an international. I usually fly in on a Sunday night or a Monday, depending on what day the conference starts. Get myself settled in a hotel, right? Get comfortable and all of that good thing.
Yeah.
For this conference, I'm probably coming in earlier. Like I said, I have family up in that area. So I'm probably going to fly from Mexico City into Pittsburgh. I'm going to hang out with my dad, and then we're going to drive up to Boston and see the fall foliage, which is obviously the best time of year to see it. So we're going to do that. Probably.
And are they going to watch your son, or are you going to be able to come without and just focus?
Oh, well, no, my son's coming because my dad never comes to Mexico to see him right now. Like we're convincing him. It's hard to pull him away, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going to bring my son, and his godmother, who is Nana Sue, is going to watch him and hang out with him. So we'll have family time, and then I'll come to the conference and have fun.
Very good. Yeah, I might try to employ some of my friends. We'll see how I do that.
The more the merrier, right? We'll find out. Like, you know what? I wish that more people would talk about this state of travel
under
with
5.
a kid.
It's very tricky with the whole conference thing. It's very tricky. Like
it's so sad, right? Like how many other moms are right now in their mind thinking like, I can't go to ERC. I can't be away for 4 days. Like my husband is great with our son. He really honestly is. He tries his hardest, but he is not mom. I have anxiety leaving my son. And this year we had a nanny. So like I left my son in October and I was gone for 5 days, right? For the extra day. And I felt terrible about it.
Yep.
But there's no way my son would have had any fun coming with me unless we had the right thing. Could you imagine orchestrating something like that for moms who want to get back into their career or who are in their career? Like, and have someone, like, what if you don't have someone to watch your son or your daughter,
or
right?
You don't have the money to like bring a nanny. I understand how bougie that sounds. Yeah. I'm very well aware. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, you get into that habit, you know, like living in Mexico, it's so affordable to have a nanny. Like, I know that I'm privileged. I know.
I had someone doing my laundry. I had somebody cleaning my house. I don't have that here.
No, you can't afford it there. And like,
my mom had a chef and a chauffeur for her kids.
But do you know what? Like, you have to look at it from, like, it's not bougie. Whenever you're...
No, it's not. I don't
when you're earning in dollars. If you are earning in dollars, you absolutely have a responsibility to support the local economy. I'm sorry, I'll say it a million times over. I have a responsibility to go out and find people who need work and employ them and pay them a fair wage.
Pay them well. Exactly.
Not this like, 100 pesos and stingy. No, pay them what they're worth.
No, Christina, I do the same thing. We have 50 teachers living in South America. They love working for us.
Of course, because you have to take care of your people, right? And if you are privileged enough to be living in someone else's culture and taking advantage of all of the great things that they have to offer, every other country has these things. The US, we make it like it's just so different to us
Yep.
in our American brain. But absolutely, if you're living outside of the US, you have to have these things, right? Support the local economy, go to the markets, don't shop at Walmart, even if you have one. I'm guilty. I still shop at Walmart because it's right around the corner. But like, I love the feel
We
of
do our best. Yeah.
Right? Like, support the local taco stand.
I agree. Okay, so for WERC for Boston, just a shout out to all the women. We might try to do something maybe the day before, you said?
Yep, the day before. That's the best time to set something up. And then there'll be things sprinkled throughout as well. I'm going to be working with ERC like we did last time. We had a luncheon where we had a couple of tables that we talked about women of global mobility. We'll probably be doing that. So we'll find ways to interact and engage everybody.
I love what Bridget just said. So Bridget, I just made a decision last week to leave my daughter to take a real trip with my partner for 4 days. For the first time. She's going to be 2. It is important. She also needs a very happy mother with a partner that she's connected to. So, and my partner was like, oh my God, I'm so excited that you are okay with this. And like, yeah, I mean, I'm leaving her with the nanny who she believes is her other parent because she's such a part of our family. So she's not even going to notice. And grandma and 2 grandmas. Yeah.
Exactly. And like we have, as moms, we have that feeling, right? We do feel guilty, but you are displaying mental health, which is so important for kids to understand.
And I think people are going to judge me.
No.
I was like terrified to tell people. And all of my aunts and my cousins were like, go.
Yeah, go. Anyone who is a mom who says that they don't leave their child or don't want to leave their child, they're crazy. Because I'm sorry, you need it for your mental health. I am a better mom when I do things for myself. When I take a walk, when I take a small mini vacation away, I am a better mom. And that's what it's about, right? Like you need to be your best version of yourself so you can help co-regulate whenever they're having their meltdown. Oh, terrible 2s and 3s. I need all the regulation help I can get. Like I need that moment to myself. Tony, no judging allowed. That's right, Tony. No judging allowed.
I know. And I like created the judgment that wasn't even there, Like
it's in your own head.
Yeah, it totally was.
You're judging
it totally was. I was like, everyone's going to think that I'm a bad mom for leaving for these 4 days. Like, nope. Nobody thought it. No one even. Nothing.
And isn't that the same with language too? We always think that people are judging us and staring at us. And, the funny thing about now that I'm in Mexico, I forgot that I stand out like a sore thumb. I still look very American. But when I'm walking around with my husband and my son, who look very, like, they fit in, right? I forget that all the time, that I don't fit in. And when I catch somebody staring at me, I look, I'm like, oh, me, that's right. I do look a little bit different, don't I? But nobody cares. They're not, no one cares.
So when I talk to some of my really advanced English speaking clients, they're like, oh, people say, can you repeat this? Or they'll kind of do a second look. And I said, they are not like, oh my God, this person has an accent. They just weren't expecting an accent. And they're just giving it, just give them a second. That's it.
Exactly.
It's not that they don't understand you. When I was in Mexico, I had to repeat myself all the time to the waiter. The waiter was not expecting an accent, and then there was one. He just has to calibrate for a second. That's it. Keep confident. Repeat it. It's okay.
Yep. And how many times do we do that with our kids too, right? Like our kids.
Well, and in English.
All the time.
I go,
my son's like, what'd you say?
Something.
Like, what'd you say? Huh?
I'm like, it's not about you. Sometimes we just don't hear it.
You're not turned on, right? Like you're not turned on to listening. And if you're not in the mind to listen, Like, how many times are you just like focused and you're like, huh? Like,
Yes.
right? You weren't prepared to listen, especially with an accent.
Thank you. Yeah, that is all that it is. That is all that it is. It's just a little recalibration. Give people a second. It's not you. They're not judging. They don't care. Yeah.
You will not be on their conversation.
Yeah.
There's many times where I wonder that. I'm like, I wonder if they talk about me at dinner time. Like, nobody's talking about me at dinner, right? Like, they didn't go home and be like, Mom, guess what? I saw this white chick walking down the street and she was talking English. Nobody cares. I promise nobody has talked about me at dinner. Well, I hope nobody's talked about me.
No. And if they did, they did. Christina, right. we have got to wrap up. I could go for like so many more hours.
This was great.
Sometimes I forget these things are live. I just
It is really, really easy. It's been great. Thank you so much for the time.
Yes, absolutely. And like I said, let's talk offline about language stuff. I just want to make you feel so confident about that. And so just reach out. So thank you again, everybody, Women of Global Mobility. I will see you in Boston. I know it's far away, but it's like tomorrow, really. And then let's talk about more, about this interesting idea of having someone watch the kids while we're all at a conference.
I love this idea. I think we need our own women's conference.
Yes.
Right.
All right.
Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye.